South Africa is no stranger to controversy, but the latest storm engulfing the police ministry may be one of the most explosive yet. Allegations that criminal syndicates have infiltrated the South African Police Service, SAPS, have rocked the nation and cast a long, ominous shadow over the leadership of the police minister. These claims are not coming from fringe conspiracy theorists or anonymous whispers in the dark, they are surfacing from former insiders, whistleblowers, and even some of the very institutions that once worked hand in hand with SAPS. It's a crisis of trust, a breakdown of the very systems meant to protect citizens, and a moment of reckoning for a government that has too often failed to stem the tide of corruption within its ranks. Imagine waking up every day in a country where the same people sworn to serve and protect are allegedly working hand in hand with the criminal underworld. Car hijackings, drug trafficking, illegal mining, cash-in-transit heists, and even organized extortion rackets are not just being ignored according to mounting evidence, they may be coordinated with the help of individuals inside the police service. It's a nightmare scenario, one that threatens not just public safety but the integrity of the South African state. The police minister now finds himself in the crosshairs of a growing public backlash. Critics say he has not done enough to root out corruption within SAPS, while defenders argue that he is being sabotaged by those inside the system who fear exposure. But for many South Africans, especially those in communities plagued by violence and lawlessness, the debate is no longer about politics, it's about survival. Public outrage began to swell following a series of investigative reports revealing shocking details about collusion between police officers and organized crime networks. In one case, it was discovered that high-ranking officers were allegedly tipping off gangs before police raids could be conducted. In another, SAPS members were implicated in running protection rackets for illegal taverns and drug dens. The picture that emerges is of a system riddled with rot, one in which the lines between criminal and cop have dangerously blurred. And these aren't isolated cases. A recent parliamentary inquiry heard testimony from former police officers who described a culture of silence within SAPS, where speaking out against corrupt colleagues often led to threats, intimidation, and forced resignations. Some even alleged that disciplinary measures were used not to punish wrongdoing, but to silence those trying to expose it. These accounts paint a deeply troubling picture of an institution in crisis, one where internal accountability is virtually non-existent. Amid this firestorm, the police minister has tried to project an image of control. Press briefings have been filled with promises of reforms, task forces, investigations, and a zero-tolerance approach to corruption. Yet many South Africans are simply not buying it. After years of similar promises that yielded little change, the public is demanding results, not rhetoric. They want arrests. They want convictions. They want the rot to be cut out at the root. But how do you purge an institution when the disease seems so deeply embedded? That's the question haunting not just the police ministry, but the entire South African government. Because this crisis extends beyond SAPS, it's part of a broader decay in governance that has eroded public confidence across the board. From municipal services to national agencies, South Africans have grown accustomed to hearing tales of graft, fraud, and malfeasance. The idea that even law enforcement is compromised is almost too much to bear. In many ways, this scandal is a perfect storm. It arrives at a time when crime rates are soaring, public trust in institutions is plummeting, and economic hardship is creating fertile ground for lawlessness. Communities feel abandoned, left to fend for themselves in a society where criminals seem to operate with impunity. For them, the idea that some police officers are actively aiding criminals isn't just disturbing, it's infuriating. Civil society groups, religious leaders, and political opposition figures are all calling for the police minister to resign. They argue that leadership must be held accountable for the state of law enforcement, especially when systemic corruption is involved. But the minister has so far refused to step down, insisting that he is committed to cleaning up SAPS from within. Whether that is possible, or whether it is too late, remains to be seen. What makes this crisis even more volatile is the widespread perception that there will be no real consequences. Too many times in South African history, powerful figures have evaded justice while whistleblowers are silenced, threatened, or even assassinated. The murder of officials, journalists, and activists has become a grim feature of the country's struggle against corruption. In such an environment, accountability is more than a political ideal, it's a matter of life and death. Some observers say that what's needed is a complete overhaul of the police system. That means more than just firing a few scapegoats, it requires restructuring the entire institution, from recruitment to leadership. It means creating external oversight bodies with real teeth, empowering communities to hold police accountable, and protecting whistleblowers with every legal and security resource available. It also means addressing the socio-economic conditions that allow crime syndicates to thrive in the first place, because corruption and poverty are often two sides of the same coin. And let's not forget the role of political interference. Several reports suggest that certain corrupt officers operate with the protection of political patrons, individuals who use their influence to shield criminals from prosecution in exchange for favors, money, or campaign support. This toxic relationship between crime and politics is not unique to South Africa, but it is especially dangerous in a country still struggling to consolidate its democratic institutions. The public must stay engaged. This is not the time for apathy or despair. If South Africa is to reclaim its police service and restore public faith in justice, citizens must demand transparency, support investigative journalism, and hold every official, from constable to minister, accountable. The truth must come out, and those responsible must be brought to justice. Because when the line between criminal and law enforcer disappears, society itself begins to unravel. For too long, South Africans have been forced to endure a security system that often seems more interested in serving its own interests than in protecting the people. That must change, and it must change now. This is not just about cleaning house. It's about rebuilding the foundation of law and order in a country that cannot afford to slip further into chaos. To those watching this unfold, both inside and outside the country, the message is clear: South Africa stands at a crossroads. The choices made in the coming weeks and months will determine whether the nation rises to confront its demons or sinks further into the swamp of corruption and criminality. The eyes of the world are watching, but more importantly, the eyes of the people are watching. And they are demanding change.